This is the closeout report for Homeless Hub, which was a Fund 6 project exploring money, value, homelessness, economic exclusion, and blockchain technology. Let's start with the basic project details. The name of the proposal was Homeless Hub. There it is on ideas scale, and there's the project ID. The budget was $18,980, and it was in the challenge Scale Up Cardano's Community Hubs from Fund 6. The dates, it began with some planning in November 2021, and sessions began in January 2022 and ran through to September 22. And even though the funded Catalyst part of the work is finished now, there are some elements of the project that are still active, so we're seeing it as ongoing rather than finished. Now a bit of project background. It was a QA-DAO project, and it was devised by Vanessa and Stephen, two members of QA-DAO who both have lived experience of homelessness. The project worked for about 9 months with 12 people from Emmaus Salford, which is a brilliant organisation that works with people who have recently been homeless. A bit more about Emmaus. It's a charity and it's a community that provides supported housing for people who are just coming out of homelessness. It also runs enterprises that employ people who are living there, such as a social supermarket and a second-hand furniture shop. It also engages community members in homelessness advocacy, which gives them engagement and facilitation skills that were really useful on this project. And just to name check the participants on this project from Emmaus, there was Julie, Kev, Chris, Barry, Kira, Andy, Darren, Ian, Joseph, Mark, Jack, and Stephen. So why homelessness? Well, homeless people and ex-homeless people are a community. We are, or we have been, at the sharp end of economic inequality, and we have lots to say about economics and politics that often goes unheard. So it felt to us like this was the community that should be testing the worth and value of crypto and whether ADA really can disrupt the economic system. Because after all, if you want to know about something, ask at the margins. Also, blockchain and digital currency look likely to affect everyone's lives in the future. And we just didn't want it to be like the internet was in the early 2000s, where there was inaccessible tech with loads of barriers, especially for the marginalised or for anybody on a low income. And then suddenly you find that you need an email address to even sign on, but no one's even told you what that is or what it implies. So you feel even more excluded. We didn't want blockchain technology to be like that. We wanted homeless people to have the chance to understand blockchain technology and examine it critically. So now what we actually did in the project. We talked about a lot of things. We had a lot of discussions covering things like wealth inequality, whether or not homelessness has influenced our take on money, what money actually is and what it means, like money ontology, I guess you'd call it. Theories of value, how society even decides what something is worth, what we value, and how far society values us or undervalues us. We looked at recording and valuing hidden work and contribution. And then we looked at things like how a blockchain actually works and some basic crypto concepts like non-fungibility, tokenomics, self-sovereign ID, decentralization, and so on. In one session, we had a meeting with Sean from Litercoin to learn a little bit more about tokenomics and what a token can be. The idea of a token that gives value to something, for instance, litter that is otherwise valueless, was really interesting to the group. And Litercoin only being spendable in carbon neutral shops was really interesting too, because Emmaus runs a second-hand furniture shop, which helps reduce landfill and aims to support carbon neutrality. So that was basically a really interesting session. We also did some creative work in the sessions to help us approach the concepts from some new angles. For instance, we tried out some drawing games around copying, repetition, and iteration in order to explore fungibility and non-fungibility and uniqueness. We tried logging our contributions and our work in our community and describing our community's hidden network of exchange and value in order to explore the whole concept of contribution systems. And we tried mapping and drawing our approach to economic value. You can read all about our process on the Project Git book. There's a link there. And here's just one page from it. You can see a little bit about the kind of stuff that's on there, session by session. And I found this quote that came out of a session when we were talking about non-fungibility really interesting. When someone doesn't value you, they're seeing you as being the same as every other person in your group, say every other homeless person. They're seeing you as fungible. And during the course of the project, we got a real life demo of some crypto issues just by watching the project budget tumble during the course of our work. And our response to that was to decide to make the most of our production budget by learning from ideas like Arte Povera and found objects artworks, and the work of artists like James Castle, a well-known US outsider artist who used entirely found materials in his work. So we use mainly scrap materials to make our final output to engage local people with blockchain issues. And there you can see an early stage of one of our final pieces, which I'll talk about in a moment. A couple of other barriers that we face that are worth mentioning. First of all, there are barriers to actual adoption of ADA by participants, especially for those on state benefits who risk quite punitive investigations by the Benefits Service if it's discovered that they hold crypto or, in fact, any other unusual source of income. And there was also understandable wariness from staff in homeless organisations, many of whom have seen clients who have become homeless through badly informed crypto trading. But now let's look at what the project produced. Working off of the saying, "Don't count your chickens," which is an English saying, means don't count your chickens before they hatch, means don't make plans that depend on something that you can't be sure of. So we raised the point that homelessness can happen to anyone. And no matter how safe you think you are financially, you can never tell what will happen. You can never count your chickens. So we created 9 beautiful pictures of chickens and placed them around Salford in organisations that have something to do with either money or homelessness. So other homelessness support projects, citizens' advice, libraries, a local church that runs a drop-in for homeless people, and so on. And there was also one at Salford University. Each chicken has a QR code that links to a website where the viewer can give their thoughts on some key questions that we devised about wealth, value, and economic change. You can see the website at the link given there, and here's an image of it. And you can see there the chicken pictures and the kinds of questions that we were asking. Things like, what would you do with £10, which is maybe more whimsical, as against, would a universal basic income improve life for you? And we also ran an after town hall in June 2022. There's a screenshot of it, and that link will take you to it on YouTube. So making the most of the participants' facilitation skills, we planned and ran an after town hall to engage with the Catalyst community. And the question we asked was, what would real world impact for crypto look like? So we tried to use a bit of a different approach than after town halls often use. We played games, we invited participation, and we tried to use a whole range of different media. For example, we compiled a playlist of songs about different attitudes to money, which you can see and even add to. Here, I'll just show you it. And you can see a really wide variety of songs here, from Gwen Guthrie through Victor Hara to the Slits and all the way down to Ching Ching Money Tree, which, if you're not aware of it, it's definitely worth a look. It's like a proper, genuine little piece of urban folk magic. It's like a meditation chant that's meant to bring you money. I don't know if it works, but it's got to be worth a try, right? So yeah, do feel free to follow that link and go and add your own favourite money songs. In the After Town Hall, we learnt quite a lot about Cardano use cases in other countries, which was really interesting. But we found that perhaps it's not going to have that much impact for people like the participant group at Emmaus in the UK because of difficulty of off-ramping, lack of utility. There's not that many use cases and not that many sellers accept it. Control of who can hold it by governments and banks and benefit systems, and the plutocratic protocol that underlines many chains. So you can watch the After Town Hall meeting there at that link just here. So is blockchain a disruptive technology then? We ended up quite unsure about it as a group. It does raise ideas. It made us examine established economic power in a new way and reflect on how we might like things to be different. But is it only disruptive as an idea? Can it actually change anything? Just like what happened with the birth of the internet, or rather the commercial internet, will government and big business take control of it? And will regulation neutralize any genuine upset of power that it might have had? Now let's have a look at some feedback from the participants on the process and the course. What participants said about the project. The feedback forms, both midterm and final, gave some really positive comments and rated the project highly. Also, the retention rates were really high, especially when you compare it to most projects of this kind, working with this kind of group, where there's often quite a high dropout rate because people have got a lot of other things going on in their lives. In this project, almost everyone came back every week, which was amazing. I just want to share an email from a participant. He says, I just want to say a big thanks to you for bringing your project to the table. I really enjoyed the whole project. It wasn't just about the project for me. It was also fantastic how it brought all of us together, listening to everyone's different opinions and their life stories. It's amazing what money does to individuals. I don't know if you've realised it, but you helped me in more ways than you can ever imagine, so thank you. I've moved on and I have an amazing job. You was a huge part of that and opened my eyes and mind, so thanks again. A lot of the project participants said that that was a key element that they really enjoyed, was about bringing the group together and listening to people's opinions. Even though Emmaus is a community, it's a working community, and people don't often get that much time to sit down together and talk and share ideas. So that's one reason we think it worked, but why else? First of all, there was a high degree of co-production. By the halfway point of the course, the participants were making most of the decisions about what we did. Then also the subject matter. Money and economic value is engaging to almost everyone. Everyone's got something to say about it. But number three, homeless and ex-homeless people have particular insights, and the project recognised that they have particular insights. So that's three key reasons why we think this project worked. And another reason that we think it worked is paying the participants a small amount each week and each session. That was really important. It wasn't so much money that people were attending just in order to get it, even if they weren't interested, but it did demonstrate that we recognised and valued people's time. Several participants mentioned this in their feedback and said how uncommon it was for projects to value them in that way. So overall, we think that the project demonstrated that marginalised and poor people have some important insights and contributions to the kind of things that we tend to theorise about in Catalyst, stuff like blockchain governance, tokenomics, and disrupting traditional economic power. So what's next? Well, we're seeing Homeless Hub as an ongoing project. The participants themselves actually put in a proposal in Fund 9, and sadly they were unsuccessful. Fund 9 was quite weird. Even though it got really high PA ratings, it didn't get funded. But they might try again in a future fund. We also built some links with Salford University's Disruptive Technology Research Cluster, which is literally down the road from Emmaus, and we hope those links will be ongoing and will continue to build connections between Emmaus and the university. Possible future work, things that the participants and we are both interested in looking at in future. We'd like to look at issues around the governance of communities, because Emmaus is a community. We'd like to look at the commons, the idea of resources and knowledge that we hold in common, and the question of recognising contribution in a community without slipping into punitive social credit systems. We're also keen to look at DIDs and SSID, which have a particular resonance for homeless and ex-homeless people, since for us, being asked for ID is often a form of control or exclusion, rather than something that seems protective. So that's about it from us. Go and add your favourite money song to the playlist, and thank you very much for watching.